people all the time in school. A buddy will walk up to me and go, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I'll just kind of apply God into it. Well, I think of it like this. And I'll bring up the book and I'll tell him. And, we'll have a whole conversation over it. And something he didn't know before, now he does. See, that's another thing you can do. And the most important thing to do is a testimony. That is so powerful to hear a testimony. It really is. I keep picking on Charles Donald, but he gave his last week, and it was powerful. It was. But that's why it is so powerful, is because now you know that other people can do it. You know that you're not the only one. You know you're strong enough. You know if he can do it, I can do it. So testimonies are amazing. And if you find yourself walking with the Lord, which I hope everyone in here does, please give testimony. Please. It helps out tremendously. Any moment you can, a testimony helps out tremendously. Now, there's a lot of us in here that have committed and a lot of us in here that will commit. And there are certain things you do not do while committing. I call this the do-nots. The first one is do not be tempted by old ways. This may be the hardest thing to not do while committing because of how bad the temptation is. I know people who came from drugs and went to prison and did all this and then came to the Lord and the temptation was so hard they found themselves back in prison for drug abuse again. Brother Chris knows 4 times those stories than I do. And it's a big thing and it happens to everybody. But you cannot be tempted. You cannot go back to those old ways because it will drag you right back down to where you started. Right back down to that torture that you were in before. You think you're all right. You think that this is the most pleasure you can have in your life, but you're wrong. So, a good way to counter temptation is to pray when you are tempted. I do this all the time. As soon as it pops up in your head, you're like, man, I really want to go and do this. You talk to the Lord. Because to me, it makes me feel ashamed for what I just thought about. After I start talking to the man who told me not to do that, I start feeling ashamed of what I just thought. Like, man, why would you do that? Like, you're giving your all to this guy. He's giving way more than you gave to you. Why would you turn your back on him like that? And you start thinking about stuff like that that you didn't think before. And so a good way to counter that is to pray. And keep prayer going every time it does. Do not falter. And the last thing to remember is if you are tempted by the old ways, Jesus is always there. I'm going to talk about it again. The Old Testament, Jesus wasn't there. When they faltered in the old ways, they were killed. That's just how it was. Because Jesus wasn't there to forgive them. Jesus wasn't there to hold their hand and bring them back onto the path. You had to stay on that path or else you were going to hell. Now we have Jesus. Now if you falter from that path, you are not going straight to hell. Jesus is there for you. You come back to that path, you are going to heaven. You come back to that path and you stay there, He will make sure you go to heaven because of His undying love for you. Amen?